Hey guys, I'm back with a new series. In this series, we will be solving problems on data structures and algorithms. So in this very first video, we will be solving problems on strings. So let us understand first the basics of strings. Now strings, as we know, is a sequence of characters, or you can say a bunch of characters that are combined to form a word. So for example, if I say JavaScript, now this string is composed of a series of characters. So you can see we have J, we have A. We can also have repetition of characters. As you can see, we have two A's. So this is a string. Now as a first example, let us see how we can print each character of this string. So let us head over to our Visual Studio Code. And here inside the string basics.js, so I'll be using JavaScript for writing the codes, but feel free to use any language of your choice. So in here, let us create a new string and let's name it as JavaScript and set this to JavaScript. Now in order to iterate over all the characters that we have in this string, we need a for loop. So let us use the regular for loop that we have in our programming languages. If you don't know what a for loop is, the link for a video on same can be found down below in the description section of this video. So for, and use the let keyword to define a temporary variable. So let I and set this to 0 to begin with. I less than javascript.length. So we need to iterate as long as our variable I is less than the length of the string, and we will keep on moving by one step. So I plus plus. This should be curly braces, and here let us console.log javascript dot. Now to access a character at a particular index, we need to use the charAt method. So dot charAt at the index I, and let us put a semicolon right here. Now in order to test this out, let us run the file. So we will be using Node.js to run the file. So let us say node strings basics.js and let us see the output. So if you see the output here, we are getting each character of the string on a separate line. So J, A, V, A and till T. So we are getting JavaScript in our console. So this is how we can iterate over the string. And let me help you in visualizing this. So back to our whiteboard. Let me paste the code snippet right here. So here you can see the for loop. If you see the string, the length of the string is 10. So now if you visualize the for loop, it says that for let I is 0, I less than string length. So the string length for this example is 10. So now as long as I is less than 10, we will keep on performing the following code block. And if you see the indexing here, J is sitting at the index 0, then A at index 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. So the indexing varies from 0 to the string length minus 1. So our loop will go on from I0 to I9, and this index of 10 will get excluded because the condition is I less than 10. So for the very first iteration, when I0, we'll say JavaScript dot character at the index 0, which is small j. So that gets printed to the console. Then I gets incremented by 1. Now I becomes 1. So then 1 is still less than 10. So we make it into the code block. Then we say JavaScript.character at the index 1, which is A. So A gets printed to the console on a separate line. Then I gets incremented by 1. Now I becomes 2. 2 is still less than 10. So JavaScript.character at the index 2. So we get V. V gets printed to the console, then I gets incremented by 1, so I plus plus. So 2 becomes 3, and 3 is still less than 10. So the character at the index 3 is A, so that gets printed to the terminal, and this goes on as long as I is less than 10. So for index 4 we get S, for index 5 we get C, for index 6 we get R, then I for index 7, then P for index 8, and then T for index 9. And then when I gets incremented by 1, it will become 10. So 10 less than 10 is false. So for I is equals to 10, it will not make into the code block, and finally this will be our output. So now let us solve a problem for strings, and this problem is pangram checking. So the question says that given a string, you need to check whether the string is a pangram or not. So let us first define what a pangram is. So a pangram is a sentence that contains every letter of the English alphabet. So from A to Z, or from capital A to capital Z. So let us consider an example for this. So if I say the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So this is the given string. Now if you see this string, it contains all the characters from A to Z. So it contains all the characters that we have in our English alphabet. So you can see it is a pangram. But what if we take the string Alex is a software developer? Now here you can see it doesn't contain all the characters from A to Z. So this is not a pangram, but this string is. So let's first understand the approach that we will be using for solving this problem. So we will be creating an array, and let us name it as hashed array. So HA, and this will be of Boolean type. So basically it will hold true or false. And the approach is that we will iterate over all the characters that we have in our string. And for each character, whenever we see it, we mark its presence in our hashed array. Now our assumption here is that the lowercase and uppercase characters are considered the same. So as we know that in English alphabet we have 26 characters, so we will be needing an array of 26 characters. So from index 0 till index 25. Now for each character that we see in the string, we will mark its presence in our hashed array. Now A or small a will be marked under index 0. Then small b or capital B will be marked under index 1. So A or capital A, B or capital B under index 1, and this will go on till Z or capital Z, which will come under the index 25. Now once we have marked the presence of each of the characters that we see while iterating over the entire string, we will again do a iteration to all our characters and then check whether all the characters are marked or not. So if at least one of them is not marked, then we will immediately return false, and we will simply say that it is not a pangram. Else, if all the characters are marked with true in this entire array, then the string is a pangram. So now we know about the approach for solving this problem. Let us see how we can solve this. So back to Visual Studio Code. Let me comment this out. And here let us create a new function, check for pangram. And this will take on a string as the argument. So let's name the argument as string1. Now the first step here is to create our hashed array that represents the presence of each character. So const HA and set this to empty square braces to begin with. Now the next step is to iterate over all the characters of the string. So iterate over the characters of the string 1. So for let I as 0, I less than string1 dot length I plus plus. Now we need to check for each character whether it is in uppercase alphabet or in lowercase alphabet. So if a character is in uppercase alphabet, then we need to convert that to an index. So basically we need to generate an index for the character. Now as we know, for capital A and small a, we need the index 0, and for B, capital B, we need the index as 1, and so on. So in order to do this, we first need to check whether the character that we are currently on is an uppercase character or a lowercase character. So let us first check for uppercase. So if the character that we are currently on. So string1 dot charAt. So the character at the index I, if it is greater than or equals to capital A and it is less than or equal to capital Z, then we need to generate an index. So index, and here what we will do is we will take the character that we are currently on and minus capital A from this. Now what it does is that suppose the character that we are currently on is capital C. So C has an ASCII code of 67, A has an ASCII code of 65. So 67 minus 65 will give us 2 and the index will become 2. And if we go by our mental model, C will come right here on index 2 and we will mark its presence as true. Now else if the current character that we are on is a lowercase character, so string1 dot character at the index I is greater than equals to small a and string1 dot character at the index I is less than equals small z, then in this case also if a character is a lowercase character, we need to map it to an index. So string1 dot the dot character at the index I minus and then small a. So let us say the current character that we are on is small t. So small d has an ASCII code of 100 and small a has an ASCII code of 97. So this will give us an index of 3 and then we will simply go to our hashed array and here we will look for index 3. And we'll record the presence of the character small d right here. Now if the current character is not a part of the English alphabet, let us simply skip it. So we can skip the current iteration by using the continue keyword. So this will abandon the current iteration and move forward to the next iteration. Make sense? And lastly, we need to record the presence of the character in our hashed array. So HA, and here we will use the index and set this to true. Now the last part of the puzzle is to iterate over all the elements that we have in our array, and for each element we will check if it contains false. So if it contains false, then we will simply return false, indicating that the given string is not a pangram. Else if all the elements in the hashed array contains true, then we can simply return true, indicating that the given string is a pangram. Make sense? So for I as 0, I less than ha dot length I plus plus. So if the hai, so the element that is sitting at the index I, if it contains false, then we can simply return false. So if at least one element that we have in our hashed array contains false, then we can simply and safely say that the given string is not a pangram. If all the elements in the array contain true, then we can simply return true, and this indicates that the given string is a pangram. Now let us run the file to see the high-level implementation for it, and then we will go a bit low level to see how this actually works. So let us go down here and use a if condition, that if check for pangram, and let us use the same string, the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. So if this gives us a true, then we can log to the console the given string is a pangram. Else we can safely log to the console the given string is not a pangram. So now let us try this out. So node strings basics.js, and here let us run the file. Now here we are missing one thing, and you know what it is? So the problem here is that in the array that we defined on line 9, here we need to set the presence of each character as false as the initial state, right? So we need to mark the presence for each of the characters as false for the start, right? So here what we can do is we can define a loop for let I is 0, I less than equal 25, because we have 26 characters, and the index will vary from 0 to 25, I plus plus, and here we can say ha of I, so the element at the index I in our hashed array, and set this to false. Now here I missed one thing, we need to define the index variable as well. So let us log the HA right here. So console.log HA, and now run the file. Okay, so for the last element you can see we are getting nan colon true. So this is the problem. Let me check the length here. Okay, so it's 26. Now one more problem that I would like to highlight here is that you can see if I log the index here, you can see we are getting nan. Now we still need to solve this problem because this difference that we are doing between the character that we are currently at and capital A or small a based on the condition is not resolving to a valid integer value. We are getting nan here, right? So to solve this problem, what we can do is instead of the charAt method that is used to access the character that is at the index I, we can use the char code at method, and this gives us the character code of the character that is there at the index I. So at the index I, if we have capital A, then this char code at method will give us 65. Now this will resolve to an integer value. So an integer minus a character will still give us nan. So let us change this capital A to its ASCII value, which is 65. And for small a, let us change this to 97. And here to get the ASCII code, we can say char code at for the character that is sitting at the index I. So now save the changes and try this out. Now we are getting numbers, and for our string in question, we are getting the given string is a pangram. So this now works. And finally, again, let me try another string. So the same one that we tried before. And now let us give this a whirl. Okay, so the given string is not a pangram. And now you can see everything works like a charm. So this was all I wanted to cover in this video. If you liked the video, do give it a thumbs up or comment down below if you have any queries. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the very next one.